I had a chance to speak with Chris Hedges. He is an investigative journalist and a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, in fact. And I had the opportunity to speak with him about censorship, privacy, and about PanQuake specifically. So we are going to play that video for you right now.
Big tech, especially during the last electoral campaign, showed how willing it is to censor on behalf of the Democratic Party hierarchy. They, for instance, locked the New York Post out of its own Twitter account to block the revelations that the New York Post published that were found on Hunter Biden's discarded laptop. They have long used algorithms, I'm a victim of it, to direct people away from left-wing critics. And of course, they were a major funder of the Biden campaign. They pumped, probably hundreds of millions of dollars in the last few weeks of the campaign in the negative campaign ads. And then since the assault on the Congress, they have wiped out all of the social media platforms of President Trump. They have closed down Parler, a rival digital platform. And we have even the supposed left wing of the Democratic Party, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others, calling for censorship. Now, these are utterly opaque for-profit corporations that are bonded to the security and surveillance state. Amazon has a $600 billion contract with the CIA. And I think that with the rise of the Biden administration, there's a particular animus towards the left because the left, groups like WikiLeaks or independent journalists like Glenn Greenwald or Matt Taibbi, call the Democrats out for who they are. So I expect the censorship to be accelerated under the Bidens. I think we're already seeing an acceleration of that censorship. Very foolish on the part of the liberal class to call for it, because these are unaccountable, very dark and malevolent forces. That's why even the ACLU and many leaders in Europe denounced the wiping out of the social media accounts of Trump, because they know where that's headed. So it's imperative that those of us who care about the free flow of information begin to try and build alternative systems before we're in this kind of Orwellian dystopia. These Google, Twitter, Facebook, they already control the communications by billions of people. And as the social unrest, which is going to grow within the United States, is exacerbated, then these media platforms, digital platforms, are going to become ever more draconian in terms of blocking out content. Well, it's free of corporate control. I mean, that's the fundamental asset that it has, that it is not bound to the security surveillance state or to Silicon Valley, but will offer, in many ways, Parler did before it got shut down. Substack does, for instance, for independent journalists like Matt Taibbi and Glenn Greenwald. But I worry that they will come, that they, it's not just that they control so much of the flow of information, but they're so aggressive in going after alternative sites that essentially want to protect free speech. Well, everybody already feels the effect of censorship. So, for instance, since this anonymous site, Prop or Not, Propaganda or Not, was posted, accusing left-wing sites, most of which I either write for or run my stuff, of being agents of a foreign power. Algorithms have been used to steer people away from my content and the content on those sites, Black Agenda Report, Counterpunch, Truthdig before it closed down, etc. So they're already feeling the effects of it. And that's not conjecture. So my last year at Truthdig, they did a graph documenting impressions. Impressions are, if you go into Google and typed in the word imperialism, and I had written something on imperialism recently, it would come up with anything else. And the referrals from impressions dropped from over 700,000 to below 200,000. I'm sure they're much lower Now, the same thing for WikiLeaks, Julian Assange. So people are already affected by this control. And what they're doing is steering readers and viewers towards corporate dominated, corporate controlled media outlets like MSNBC or CNN or the New York Times. So there's a collusion between these established media outlets and the censorship of Silicon Valley, of these digital media platforms, because it benefits them. And they work, outlets such as MSNBC, the New York Times, NPR, they have devolved into propaganda arms for the Democratic Party. And we've just seen that. I mean, the New York Times calling the John Podesta emails, which were published by WikiLeaks, misinformation. That's just factually incorrect. The Podesta emails are true. Nobody has ever challenged the veracity. The same thing with the contents on Hunter Biden's laptop. Nobody in the Biden campaign or the Biden family denounced that as fake news or misinformation. Instead, they attacked it as kind of Russian propaganda. But they never challenged the actual content itself, which was also true for the Podesta emails. And so there's a collusion between established corporate media and Silicon Valley to wipe out those centers of information that challenge the dominant narrative. And there's, of course, profit plays a huge part in this. But we know from the Pew Research Center, which did a poll last summer, who outlets like the New York Times now serve. I think it's 91% of the readers of the New York Times self-identify as Democrats. 87% of those who listen to NPR, 94% of those who watch MSNBC. And of course, then you have the inverse, where about 94, 95% of those who watch Fox News identify as Republicans. Well, this is very dangerous because essentially you're pitting demographic against demographic, widening the kind of social and political divides in the midst of extreme stress within the economy and deep suffering. And that divide at a certain point, it may already be there, becomes so unbridgeable people can't communicate. So you need nonpartisan outlets where people can go to get information that isn't essentially working on behalf of one faction or another. It's crucial, especially as we watch big tech become more and more aggressive, as they have in the last couple of weeks, in terms of shutting down any kind of digital platforms that is a threat to the hegemony of the Democratic Party and the ruling power elite within the Democratic Party. I'll use it for all the reasons I just stated. I know many of the people behind it, including Bill Binney, and I trust their integrity and I trust their word. We have to begin to build alternatives and use them to free ourselves from the death grip that corporations like Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and everyone else has on our ability to communicate and inform ourselves about what's happening in the world.